Beside the Brook, the story of someone who found the truth, written by McDonald. Beside the Brook, Chapter 9, A Duck's Adventures. The winter was mild, and though snow fell at the end of January, it soon disappeared, and swelling catkins bobbed on the hazels with their promise of spring. Farmer Wilmot was well pleased with the experiment of keeping sheep and the services of his shepherd, for Teddy proved himself valuable in other ways. He had a way with sick calves and troublesome colts, and could be relied upon when little pigs arrived in the small hours of the morning. Lengthening days brought extra work. There was ploughing and spring sowing, hedging and ditching. The new life of spring gladdened the old man's heart, sending him forth full of hope each morning, and calling him home content at night to spend a quiet hour or two before bedtime with his Bible and meditation. The brook swirled by as a brown flood in February, bringing quantities of flotsam that hitched along the banks or got caught in branches fallen across the stream. Here was a board from a hen coop, there a leaky watering can, floating bulbs, and an empty cartridge case. That explained why odd garden flowers sometimes grew by the banks, for the brook washed its way by cottage plots and swept away whatever root or bulb fell in. A clump of narcissus and a black currant bush had thus risen up not far from Teddy's home, and on the bend where the slackening current had cast up a mud bank, there grew a mixture of plants. The close green of celandines clothed it in February, but later in the season it was starred with big primroses, some brown like polyanthus. Higher up the bank, where ground ivy trailed thickly among the undergrowth, a bright blue periwinkle opened its eye, the first of a bevy that blossomed for 2 months, unfurling their coiled petals every morning. Hardly anyone knew about their secret flowering. Beauty unseen by human eye is no loss, for it reflects the beauty of the Creator and gives him pleasure. Not far away in the same copse grew a rarer periwinkle, purple with a white ring like a pheasant's collar. Peggy discovered this treasure first, and each spring she hunted diligently for the few blooms which she picked and pressed. Now a thicket of blackthorn shone white above the mud bank. So delicate were its blossoms that the drifts of petals and stamens seemed like puffs of silver fog suspended in air. Here a blackbird shuffled over her eggs. Her long brooding must have been a pleasure. There were days indeed when silver needles of cold rain lashed her feathers, and a strong wind swayed her nest as if to drive her from her purpose. But her golden eye was constant, now glancing below where purple-spotted orchids flourished tall amid the garlic, now up at the clouds racing across the blue dome beyond the acacia tops. Dozens of other eggs were being hatched in that wood. Some were secreted in the cleverest places. 10 tiny white eggs lay along the grey bough of the ash tree in a lichen-covered nest that matched it exactly, lined with feathers picked from its long-tailed tit's own breast. At the bottom of the hole, in the same tree trunk, a clutch of starlings' eggs were not allowed to grow cold. Couched beneath a low arch of honeysuckle, a hen pheasant covered 14 more. If she sat motionless, she could not be distinguished from the dead oak leaves on which she had laid her olive-brown eggs. But none of these, not even the coot's clever nest pile on an island of sticks in mid-brook, gave more joy to its owner than the hollow containing the beautiful white eggs of a gentle duck. The nest was particularly precious because it was stolen. The brown farmyard duck disdained to lay in her comfortable fox-proof pen. Several days she had poked her flat beak into possible sights, the filled-in burrow beneath the rhododendron bush, the straw heap beside the hayrick, and a nettle bed. But at last she decided on a clump of bulrushes above flood level, where she could enjoy the chatter of brook water unseen. Dead rushes made a springy bed for the nest, round which the new growth rose up for a screen. Though quite close to the shieling, she had no fear of Teddy, from whom she had often received food scraps while paddling in circles near him. So confident was the brown duck in the shepherd's presence that she almost smiled from beneath her beady black eyes when he suddenly came upon her one morning brooding on her nest. Tipping her head sideways, she heaved a vibrant squeak without opening her beak. "Well, well," said Teddy, smiling, "that's your secret, is it?" And later in the day he told Farmer Wilmot. "Would you like that sitting for yourself?" he said. "You may have it if you wish." "Thank you, sir," said Teddy. "I should like it fine." So he watched over the duck, took her oats, mashed potato and bacon rind, supplied her with a dish to dabble her food in, and discovered when she waddled off for a taste of brook water that the duckling family might number 9. The fox he heard barking at night worried him, so he found a big box in which he drilled holes and placed that over his trustful charge when evening fell. He did not know how long she had already brooded over the eggs, but hastened to prepare a little pen of wire netting on the grass beside his hut for the family. Twice a day the duck left her eggs to paddle in the brook, in the morning before Teddy went to work and after his return. One quiet evening, as the sun was sinking in a pool of gold, the old man was roused by beating of wings and a consternation of quacking. Hastening to the door, he beheld the duck running on tiptoe with outspread wings as fast as her ungainly body would allow towards him. In a moment he saw the cause of the outcry. A precious egg was being borne along by what seemed to be a lithe streak of brown fur. "Caw, caw!" shrieked the duck. Teddy hurled the first handy object at the robber, but his boot missed the stoat, which nevertheless dropped its burden. The egg was punctured, so he said good-bye to that duckling, and tried to soothe the agitated duck with a slop of bread and water. But she heaved and squeaked inwardly for a long time. Another egg had been rolled from the nest, so that the stoat would probably return. "I'll borrow a coop," said the old man, and shut her up for the rest of the time. So for the rest of the brooding period the coop enclosed the nest, and though it shut out the welcome green of the rushes, it gave the duck security, for the shutters were kept closed. Hence it was in darkness that the first egg chipped, and a happy little eep, eep was answered with a satisfied maternal quack. Teddy discovered the duckling on his return from the fields, its downy head peeping from beneath its mother's wing. "You pretty little beauty," he said, but the duckling withdrew below the duck's feathers. The mother refused to leave her hatching after the first arrival, so Teddy put her food inside the coop. Snuggling over her precious family, she looked twice her usual size. "Quack, quack, quack," she breathed in low tones, and "eep, eep, eep," answered her little ones. Only 4 eggs had hatched, and when after a few days the other 4 remained below the duck, the shepherd gave them up as failures. So did the mother, who was anxious to descend into the brook with her brood. And a lovely procession they made, with mother waddling in front, and the brown and yellow bundles of down waddling one behind the other in perfect imitation. Launching herself, the mother paddled round to witness their plunges. The ducklings waved their funny triangles of feet, dipped their beaks, wagged their tails. Then, following the duck into the shallow current, they swam round the bend. Teddy felt great pride in his new family, and transferred them to the pen on their return. Ginger stalked them in their ascent from the brook, but the mother created such a disturbance with wings and beak that he was glad to leave her babies alone. The old man loved to watch them dabble in their dish. Sometimes, perched on the edge, they wavered for a moment and fell in. Oh, what a mess they made of their food! But they throve on it all the same, and issued well fed from the pen every morning and sallied back at night. Soon a little track appeared down to the water's edge. The ducklings grew rapidly, and soon stiff feathers sprouted through the down. Occasionally the mother led them to the farmyard, but her children led them back again, for they preferred the quieter reaches of the brook. Flotillas of other ducks also adventured past the shepherd's hut, young ones in all stages of growth and in all shades of tawniness, but Teddy's family never mixed with them. If near the pen, they waddled up their track out of the way, and if not, they swam under the banks like the coot. By the time the bluebells had disappeared, the duck seemed eager to be gone. The anxiety of motherhood had passed with the growth of her children. Perhaps she remembered the bountiful supply of wheat tipped daily from the farmyard bucket. Anyway, her waning affection became so obvious that Teddy took her back to the farmyard one evening after nightfall, leaving the young birds sleeping unaware with their bills tucked into their back feathers. Nevertheless, they missed their mother, and waddled about inquiringly with stretched necks in the morning. But the call of the brook made them forget, and they swam along content with each other's company. Ginger treated them with great respect. After all, they were 4 to 1 and growing larger every day. He even sat calmly by while they dispatched the food in his saucer and continued to dabble in it after it was empty. The shepherd found them intelligent pets. Black markings leading from the corners of their twinkling black eyes gave them the appearance of smiling. The 4 were usually gathered round the steps of the hut to greet him on his return from work, expectant of another meal in spite of crops crammed full of tadpoles and tiddlers. "I'll look for eggs for me before the year's out," Teddy warned them, and the sturdy brood wagged their tails and quacked a confident assurance that they would do their best.